Welcome to China Paradigm, a show powered by Dashi Consulting, where we interview seasoned entrepreneurs and experienced managers in China about their business and experience in the country. Hello everyone, I'm Matthew David, the founder of Dashi Consulting and its podcast China Paradigm. Joining me today is Michael Chow, co-founder of MEGI. And I'd like to read what you wrote, Michael, on your LinkedIn profile, because I think it's a very entrepreneurial way of showing a business and talking about the business. So MEGI is a cloud-based accounting software that brings easiness and beauty to the management and control of small and startup businesses in China. And I want to stop here. And that's something I feel very interesting. You say easiness and beauty to the management. I think in every entrepreneur, everyone who is starting something, developing something, whether it is in business, an entrepreneur, whether it is, in politics, as politician, or in association and as volunteer, people who create things, they do things also for beauty, for aesthetics. And you state it on LinkedIn. That's a very interesting statement. Then you say, working in seamless collaboration with the outsourced accountants in MEGI cloud platform, small business owners or management can also have their bookkeeping, tax filing, annual compliance effectively completed, as well as acquire on-time financial and management advisory service. That's what you provide. You provide a SaaS service, a SaaS basically, which means software as a service, which has become a trend over the last 5, 7, 8 years. And we know the big SaaS businesses like Zoom is a SaaS. We are using it now. Slack is a SaaS. Spotify is a SaaS. You have many, many businesses as a SaaS, mainly because it's also very easy to manage in terms of cash, in terms of finance, and also because that's what the clients are looking for. You have a team of about 10 people, if information on LinkedIn is correct. You may correct us later on. And the company was started in 2015. You are also director of people and culture at a company called Axel Standard. And this is something you will explain us more because our understanding is that this Axel Standard is a promotion of accounting norms, of accounting best practices among the industry. And this is something I like to ask questions on. So first question, how is your company currently? We're just ending the pandemic, right? A few weeks ago. Today is the 4th of June.
Oh yes. Thanks a lot, Matthew. Actually, MEGI has been around for about 6 years. And we've been growing our subscription. We do business with small, medium-sized enterprises in China, especially foreign companies. We have been keeping growing our subscriptions, but the growth rate is very, very slow. It's very slow. But recently we've experienced in the outbreak of the pandemic, coronavirus pandemic in China. Maybe to your surprise, actually, we didn't see a very obvious slowdown of our subscription. We didn't see any of our clients leaving MEGI. They continue to use our software. And I think that is because of, most of our clients, they are quite strong. They are quite strong in terms of, their business management.
So you were saying that growth was slow. So you were not very satisfied with growth in the past over the last 6 years. And during the pandemic, first, you didn't suffer from it. First thing, people didn't unsubscribe. But what you said actually in one article we found online is that you said that actually you even grew. You got new clients during the pandemic or just after, basically during those uncertain times.
Yes, actually, I can give you the reason. Those companies, they really make good use of our products. Small businesses that are serious about managing their operations and managing their financials. And also they require very qualified and professional experienced accountants to help them to really put their operations under well control and help them to perform, good financial reporting analysis to maximize their profits. So actually, those companies using our software, they are quite strong. They function very properly and well during the normal times. So that when they are suffering from the impact of the epidemic, they still have a strong body. They are kind of immune from the virus, and they can keep functioning. And then that's why they are in a better survival chance. So actually, although we've seen a very slow increase of our number of subscriptions, but those of our clients, they are quite strong in terms of organization, and they can actually, they are in a better position to dispel the impact from the pandemic, and their survival rate is much higher. Okay,
So
and
for yourself,
okay.
so no impact of the pandemic, and for your clients, basically what you are saying is that your clients have not been much impacted neither.
I think they are. I think all these small businesses are impacted, but what differentiates our clients is that they have a much healthier body to really combat the virus, to combat the impact. Because they have a much better cash flow, they have a strong internal control, they have a good relationship with their employees. Everything combined together make them in a better position to combat the impact of the virus. Yeah. So that's why we are growing slowly, but we are we are not too much affected. Our business and our subscription numbers are not too much affected by the outbreak of the epidemic. Okay.
How many companies are using your software currently?
A little bit less than 1,000.
That's a nice number.
But that's a quite small number in comparison with our international counterparts. For example, QuickBook Online and Xero, they have more than 2 million subscribers worldwide. Our number is quite minimal comparing with their numbers.
On the other hand, they focus on the entire world, especially the US, and you are focusing on international business or foreign businesses in China, if I'm correct. So it's a niche, which is good to be in a niche because you are protected, you don't compete with the big ones, but on the other hand, you cannot expect to have a high number of clients and users. Is my analysis correct? Is that you're really focusing on this niche of foreign international businesses in China?
I think that's quite correct. That's quite correct, but also it's changing. What you said is very correct in that we are, staying in a very niche market where we have no competition. We have no competition because our foreign counterparts like Xero and QuickBook Online, it is very difficult for them to make entrance into Chinese market because the statutory regulation in terms of accounting and taxation here are quite different. And also they do not have a Chinese language interface. And we have all of them. And we also have a good usability and we have a good beauty of the design of our software. So that's why we have a distinct competitive advantage in our niche market. The reason why, so maybe you want to ask a question, why we serve, most of our clients are from foreign companies. It is because foreign companies in China, they are serious about managing their financials in comparison with their Chinese counterparts.
Interesting. That's what that's the conclusion you drove, is that the foreign players may be more picky and look at their financials more than the Chinese companies, which maybe don't look at it because business was so good before. So you don't look at your financials when business is good, when it's growing on average double digit without much effort, without to have to do much about it. Does it make sense?
I think what you said, the reason accounts for maybe some of the reasons why we are seeing that foreign companies are performing much better than their Chinese counterparts in terms of managing their financials. But that is unfortunately not the most important reason. I think the most important reason is the culture. culture, the way they look at managing their businesses, the way how serious about managing their financials, and this is a business culture, because the foreign expat management or expat business owners, when they were back in their foreign countries, like in United States, Australia, and Britain, they are already used to this scientific way of management. They really utilize the management accounting principles and theories to really better control their business. And that helped them to maintain a quite decent cash flow and lower down their costs and make their operations much more profitable. So that's their belief. That's their way of managing their business. And that belief, really fits in well with the design of our software, because our software enabled the foreign management to really, actually streamline their operations and record accurately their data and issue, financial reports that can be referenced for decision making. But in China, the way business is quite different in terms of the business culture. And Chinese companies, the business owners, they tend to just use their brain to remember their transactions sometimes to some extent. And also, we have a phenomenon called dual book in China, because to be frank, a large percentage of the Chinese small businesses, they engage in different degree tax evasion activities. That is a phenomenon in China, and they do not want to expose their book to the public, and they don't want to put their numbers on cloud. This is a natural tendency, and also they just acquire their business to extent from building relationship with the government, building relationship with their clients. So that's where they just acquire their businesses. Okay, so all these characters combined together, we can come to the conclusion that the Chinese business owners, they tend not to put a lot of emphasis on the scientific management. So that's why they are not using. There's not a large percentage of Chinese businesses using our software. So actually, you can also come to the conclusion from another logic. Look at the foreign countries. These big internet SaaS accounting software companies like Xero and QuickBook Online. They are already extremely successful. But in China, we do not see such kind of company, big company. The reason is because of the characteristics of the market. There's a quite a different mindset between Western business culture and Chinese business culture.
True.
But yeah.
A few people, we interviewed a few people in the SaaS kind of business. One of them being social media SaaS, so to manage WeChat, Weibo, and so on. Another one with cloud, pure cloud company, providing space, so in the internet for your file and for your softwares to put on. And they were both saying that Chinese companies tend to not spend too much on corporate solutions, corporate softwares, because they would prefer to allocate the time of someone in their team to actually replace this software. And there is a sense of I better allocate more time, spend more time than paying for a solution, a software.
Yes. I think first of all, Chinese companies, they tend to actually put more of their resources into the activity of acquisition of business. So that's a character, because for them, the most important thing is that they want to do marketing, they want to do business development, and the utmost important thing for them is to acquisition of the business from their clients. So that's where you see most of their resources go, and in terms of the foreign businesses, they tend to actually to make sure that the product and service they deliver is of high quality, good quality, that make their clients happy, that make their clients successful, so that they can get referred clients, they can get clients from referrals and because of their reputation, in professional reputation in the industry. So that's a different way. I tend to see that my observation tells me that the foreign consumers or our clients, they are relatively mature in terms of identifying the quality of the products or services offered by their suppliers, so that they make a relatively, informed and good decision about what they buy. But in China, things are a little bit different. Making decision about what kind of product service buy sometimes are not so rational, sometimes are not so logic, sometimes as very much affected by the affectional characters. Okay, so that's a difference. I'm not saying which one is better, which one is worse, but we need to really spot these differences. And also, one of my advice to foreign companies is that when they go to China, they really need to study the patterns of purchase the behavior of the Chinese consumers. They need to also adjust the way they just perform their business development and marketing, so that they can really fit into the Chinese market. But at the same time, it is really a good idea that they can maintain their scientific way of management. So, but it is very difficult for the foreign expat managers to achieve this balance. It is very difficult. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think times are changing now? My personal feeling is that you have those very now international and very international level Chinese companies. We talk about Huawei, AI, and so on, but which are actually examples of good management now within the country. And the small and medium companies, which may raise money from investors, which have ambitions, and basically now nothing is cheap anymore. So you have to manage your company much more accurately to make sure you don't do a mistake. So don't you think that times are changing now, and small and medium Chinese companies are also improving the way they manage internally and control their business?
This is a very good question, and actually, we work with a number of highly qualified accounting firms or individual freelance business advisors in China. And to be very frank, foreign companies account for more than 90% of our subscribers. Okay. And actually, previously, our accounting firm partners and freelance advisors, they actually work in collaboration with our foreign business clients to help them to supervise their accounts, to provide advisory services to them. But recently, we are seeing an increasing number of Chinese business clients using the services provided by our, business advisory partners. And this is a very, there's a clear trend. We see a clear trend about these kind of increasing numbers of Chinese business clients, and they are of some kind of common patterns. And their business owners are, after the 80s, so they are quite young, and also some of them were educated overseas. This is a clear pattern, and yes, but there's not a clear pattern, where they come from. Maybe we imagine that maybe a large percentage of these business owners come from the new era sectors like internet, but it is not. They come from a wide range of different sectors. So it's really.
It's interesting. My understanding is that what you are saying is that your Chinese clients are those who have been overseas, partly educated overseas. And when we look at the number actually of Chinese students overseas, it's not a small amount. On top of my head, I remember that about 800,000 Chinese students in the US only as a stock of students, because there is a flow in the stocks, the number of students staying for 3 or 4 years in the US, or even more sometimes. And there is a flow of like 200, 300,000 every year from China to the US until now. maybe things have changed from last year because of the trade war and because of what's happening. For sure, it has been impacted. But basically, those students go back to China, and those are the ones who are going in the coming 5, 10 years, being involved in decisions in companies, starting businesses. Those are the ones who are going to be asked by their management team to find a solution to better manage the company, to come up with a standard. And they used in the US, or they saw QuickBooks, for instance. So they are going to find the QuickBook of China, and then they would find you. Is it what's happening?
Yes. You are talking about precisely what's been happening. Actually, this globalization. I mean, this phenomenon, this kind of Chinese students starting overseas, Chinese people working overseas in the Western countries. They put themselves into the real Western business culture, and they learn from the Western businesses, and they immerse their career into those business environments, and then they were incrementally educated by how to better and scientifically run the business to make it more profitable and controllable. And when they come back, they just bring back the same business culture, and that is quite good, because China is under economic reform. Previously the acquisition of resources in terms of non-human resource, natural resources, and human resource in China, is easier, and the cost is lower. But increasingly, China will have to face the problem of, the increased cost of all kinds of resources to conduct the businesses. And then management and accounting and controlling become increasingly important to really make the business viable in the future. At the same time, the Chinese government has been pushing forward the tax reform, and it is increasingly difficult for the Chinese business to hide their numbers, and they will have to be forced to achieve financial visibility. So all these factors drive the increase of numbers of those Chinese businesses using our accounting services from our platform, and then as a result, they use our software.
To give a bit of perspective to people listening to us, over the last 10 years, I think taxes have been much more well collected in China. To give an example, the restaurant business, all the businesses, coffee shop, restaurants, where there was a lot of payment in cash, is going now through WeChat and Alipay, and this is electronically recorded. So even though some people still make people pay on their personal Alipay or WeChat, most of businesses now have an account, professional account, to collect the money. So indeed, we can understand that now also the calculation of GDP, which have always been a bit of a question of the calculation of GDP in China, I believe also is going to be much more easily calculated and accurate, and with a higher level of granularity in China. I'd like to know, so 1,000 clients roughly, your pricing is about 400 RMB per month. Does it mean that you are about now a size of 5 million RMB in a year?
Actually not. We have a different level. We have different versions. We have a so-called standard version, which is more of a management accounting software, where the business clients, they can actually manage their sales, purchase, and expenses, and they can perform back reconciliation, and then later accounting statements. Okay. This is a kind of a full features version of our software. We have also another version called Smart Ledgers. Smart Ledgers are used by bookkeepers and accountants to increase their efficiency of compliance services, only compliance. So Smart Ledger version is of a much lower price because these kind of management accounting features are not incorporated. Okay. So that means our revenue is lower than 5 million actually, and sometimes we also give discounts for large volume purchase from our accounting service partners. we do not actually do business directly. Sometimes there is inquiry from internet, and the small business, they just can use our software by free trial and then make a decision. That's okay. But we do not actually go to our clients, office and demonstrate our software to them because our subscription is very low. So actually, our business model relies on heavily on our accounting firms who really provide advisory services to their clients, and they really need to rely on our software to share one set of a book with their clients anytime and anywhere. So that's why they have incentive to help us sell our software. So that's our business model, and we give discounts to them.
I got it. That's actually the beauty of SaaS is that you get payment every month as a manager of the company. It's very predictable. It's very stable, and you have time to build new features. You have time to think about how to make your software beautiful, as you said, a beauty of dashboard and adding features. But the downside is that you cannot charge a company, a client, too much. Usually the monthly charge is not enough to cover with one client or a few clients your setup or your expenses. So you need to have a massive number of clients to be able to cover your expenses and your cost basically. What was your perspective when you started the business? What was your idea of number of clients? 1,000 clients, I feel it's a decent amount of clients in your niche, which are foreign businesses. What is your objective? Is it to reach 10,000, 1 million? What was the objective initially?
Oh, that's a very good question. When we started this business, actually, if we expected that we will be having maybe 1,000 subscribers from the outset of starting our business, we would be very, unsatisfied. We would have been very unsatisfied because, this is a SaaS business. You are talking about the numbers. Actually, you are right in saying that, we just collect subscription fees monthly. So the monthly subscription fee is quite low, as you can see. That means we've been really expecting a much larger number of subscribers, Actually, when we started this business, we were aware that it takes a long time for Chinese business on board our platform because they are not serious about managing their financials, and we cannot just educate the market. We have to wait the market to become increasingly mature. But we did actually predicted that the foreign business sector can serve as a sufficiently large market for us. Even it's a niche market, we have more than 200,000 small foreign businesses in China, more than. Yeah.
You estimated 200,000 foreign businesses in China. I thought it would be smaller than this. So it's still room to grow. You can grow by 200 times as a number you currently have. Talking about the product. So to deep dive a bit in the product, you are offering a dashboard on your finance. You are also helping to do expense claim for the team. You are helping to understand the fixed assets. I'm reading the different features of your software, and also making easier to bill clients or to remind that it has not been paid, etc. Or everything around billing. To manage multi-currency as well businesses, and we see that it seems that international businesses are your segment because you have this feature. What we call bank reconciliation, basically that the payment has been received, so you don't have accounts receivable. And FAPIO management, which is very, very Chinese. FAPIO is an invoice which is directly connected to the softwares of government. So every time you issue a FAPIO, the government knows within the minute how much taxes you have to pay and how much revenue you have generated.
Correct.
And then inspection and reporting. That's what with KPI you can set up and so on. Could you tell us more about the features I've just described, and what are the key features that your client buy? Because when we have a lot of features, sometimes you have a killer feature. You have a star feature. For instance, subscribers of Spotify may subscribe because of one playlist they often listen to, and they want to listen with that advertisement. So what are the key features your clients are valuing?
First of all, thank you very much for your research into our product. Actually, you described the main features. So actually, we have these different modules in terms of expenses, in terms of sales, purchase, and back reconciliation, fixed assets, and payroll, 发票. Actually, companies from different sectors, they actually tend to use a different set of features. Because because of the different nature of their business. Okay, so if you ask me what are the killing feature, I would say back reconciliation, because back reconciliation is the core feature that organizes all other features together. Let's look at what small business owners are most concerned about when they are managing their financials. It is really about they want to track their account receivable. Have I received money for these sales or not? So, how much is overdue and how that will affect my cash flow. Also, they track the purchase, have I paid the supplier and how much I'm going to pay, and also expenses. They want to control their expenses, But, actually, eventually, all the cash flow is reflected in the back statements. And they want to really reconcile, sometimes weekly, sometimes even daily, between their back statements, the ins and outs of their cash flow, with their sales, purchase, and expenses, in order to
I
keep
see.
track of their financials. So
I
that's
see.
our
So
most prominent feature. Yeah.
So it's to make sure that to know accounts receivable, so how many invoices you send to clients which have not been paid, but when it's paid, then your software is going to match with the invoice because you see the same amount of money in the bank account from the same the company with the same name that you have inputted in the software. And also in terms of expenses, you match the expenses with a FAPIO, because for people who listen to us from overseas, if you don't have a FAPIO in China, you cannot put your cost, your as expenses, and to deduct from CIT, the taxes, the corporate taxes. So
Correct.
this the interesting point. Small businesses want to make sure that their money is going to the right place and they collect the money. I have a question about banks. You talk about bank reconciliation. And from my own experience at Dasha Consulting, we are using, we have a company in Beijing, we have a company in Shanghai, we are using two different banks. And those banks, in terms of softwares, are bad. They are using Internet Explorer. You cannot open on Chrome. You have to download the software every time you want to open the account. And it's not small business, it's not small banks, it's Bank of China and Bank of Shanghai. But the experience of using their software is very, very unsatisfactory. How, how is it to work with banks, with API, with giving access to them? Do they have API? Do they give you access to the bank account of the clients to reconcile? That's a big question mark for me.
That is a very pertinent question. And I have several points in response to this question. The first point is that, actually what differentiates our software in China versus all other SaaS systems is that is our design, is our beauty. So we actually have a very streamlined design of in terms of organization and flow of our functionalities. And actually, our chief designer is a foreigner who understands the Chinese accounting. So this is very important, To be very frank, the design in software design in Western countries are much more advanced. So that's why we have our designer who is a foreigner. Secondly, I know that what you are talking about in terms of using of the systems provided by the online banking system provided by the Chinese banks. I know it is difficult to use quite some of them. However, we enable the download. The banks provide the features of downloading of electronic bank statements into Excel file, and our software enables the upload of the Excel file into our system. So actually,
does it mean that manually people who use your software have to download and upload, or does it connect directly to the bank? And
yeah.
then the second question is that do they open API? Because I feel the banks in China, because they have such a large market, they have so much power, I'm not sure they really care about the small players around them. Like in the US, in Europe, the banks would like to actually create the API and make it possible to give access to the bank account. In France, for instance, where we have a company, some accounting companies, accountants have a secured access to every bank, and it goes through a centralized solution. Very, very regulated, but it's very secure. And you can connect your software to the bank through this solution. How is it in China?
You are talking about actually so-called backfeed feature, which means when you open your SaaS accounting software, you already have your back statements uploaded into your software directly from the bank. Okay, so this is so-called backfeed, and QuickBook Online and Xero all has this backfeed feature because they have the support from a big number of international banks. So they provide such kind of functionality. You are right, but in China, this has been very backward. Very backward. Big banks, they provide backfeed, possibility, but it is very costly. Now, big companies use such kind of technology to actually automatically get the back statements from the API. Obtain the back statements from the API. But actually, for small businesses, this is still not affordable. However, we enable a very smooth upload of back statements. When you download back statements, that takes about 1 minute. When you upload, that takes about 30 seconds. So in total, 1 minute and 30 seconds, you have your back statement already in our software. So
you need to do it yourself, right?
The clients, they can perform that, and it is very streamlined. It's very easy, just not too much work at all. So actually, most of our clients, they are using these upload and download functionalities to really track their cash flow, to really make sure that they collect money and they pay properly to their suppliers.
My other question is about mobile. We are in a world where everyone has a mobile. There are about 900 million, I think, mobile users in China, which is not actually everyone in China. But this is widespread, smartphones. Is your software making it possible to scan FAPIA, recognize the amount of the FAPIA, what we call, I think, OCR, if my memory is correct, and input on the cloud? Is it something which is possible now, or it's something that you are working on, or that's still something which is not working very well?
This is also a very pertinent question. So thank you. Actually, the beauty of our software is that, we are like Legos. We do not, aspire to resolve all these kind of accounting and management problems. We just our core functionality is about back reconciliation and general ledger to issue financial reports. And there are actually companies who has a lot of, business development people, and they have a lot of expenses to approve and process. And then they need to well manage FAPIA, and they will need to give the tools to their staff to better manage their expenses and better submit and claim their expenses. Actually, we are working with some of the end-on functionalities, end-on software, SaaS softwares, who dedicates to manage FAPIA, For example, one of our end-on partner named 喜报销, happy expense claim. Okay, actually, they have very strong mobile side functionalities to enable the business development people, to enable the staff employees to actually record their expenses instantly when the expenses occur, and also enable them to scan the fapiao into the mobile phone and then submit the expense claim. And then the manager and the directors can approve the expense claim over the cloud. And later, all these expense claim transactions can be synchronized into our MEGI accounting software seamlessly. And then for later processing in terms of making sure the payment in terms of these expense transactions go into the general ledger for financial reporting purposes. So these two softwares are very much integrated, although they come from two different vendors, because we have open API to connect us together. So this is actually one of the core parts of the cloud technology. Yeah.
I see. So your strategy, if I understand correctly, is not to develop everything internally, and that's understandable. Otherwise, it would be never-ending and overwhelming. It is to partner with other very, very niche, very focused solution, and to be able to interconnect with them through your API and their API. So, for instance, the one you are mentioning is basically an app scanning the FAPL, collecting information on the FAPL, and making it possible for the managers to approve it, and then you can actually connect with those information to reconcile, because your core business is to reconcile and ledger. So the flow of money inside the company, and to have statements, financial statements, that's your focus, your core business, which is actually the main part of accounting, but not everything in accounting. So you could see two ways: either to expand in different directions, including the OCR we just mentioned, or focusing on only the financial statements. And so far, you have chosen to only focus on financial statements.
You're absolutely correct. And that is the beauty that is brought forward by the cloud technology. Because I used to work with Kingdee, which is one of the most prominent ERP system supplier in China. So these conventional ERP suppliers, they tended to build everything, all the functionalities of a ERP system. Because they used to do on-premise deployment of their software. They become very big, and they tend to do everything, and the software become very complicated. But in the cloud era, in the cloud age, actually, it is no longer like the software suppliers are no longer like an elephant. They become increasingly like a group of wolves, small animals, they fight together. And then increasingly, there are small independent software vendors focusing on developing a specific feature for specific industry, specific sector, or specific area. Where they are most, professional. They know about that professional area much better than the other software vendors, and they focus on a specific area to develop the best quality, best performing feature for that area. And because ERP systems must be interconnected, and then they use the open API over the cloud to connect with each other, eventually form a complete solution for the client. And the client is in a better position to actually pick and Lego together different individual pieces of software, and make it much easier for them to find the appropriate system which is dedicated for their industry, and also a simpler solution with less amount of time for implementation. So this is the beauty brought forward by the cloud technology, and it's been already this kind of business model is already prevailing in the Western countries, like especially in Australia. Our counterpart in Australia called Xero, they have more than 1,000 add-on applications in the area of inventory management, payroll, e-commerce, and CRM, etc. And the clients are, they can actually choose from a wide variety of options to form their own solution. Yeah. So this is also our business model. But actually, this is also, this kind of business model is just growing in China. It's still at a very infant stage. So there's still a long way to go before we see this kind of convenience taking place in China.
I see. Well, a lot of people talk about blockchain, revolution of blockchain, but I feel, and that was also something I experienced before, that open API may be more revolutionary than blockchain, or it's something currently revolutionary because businesses are able to actually leverage the asset of other businesses very easily through open API, where you say cloud businesses, because cloud businesses usually create their open API to be used by other businesses. And this is very, very powerful. The overhype of blockchain, I think, has hidden this open API concept, which may be more revolutionary than what we see currently in the blockchain. Talking about something else, you have a lot of information about 1,000 businesses. Are you also using this information for providing some qualitative understanding or management tips? Because you could do statistics. You could actually leverage this volume of data to say, oh, you are doing better than the average in collecting invoices, or you are doing worse than average in tracking the FAPIO in your expenses. Those data, you have it. And this reminds me of a business called App Annie. App Annie is a tracking of apps, and there are two ways they make money. They make money like you by invoicing their clients to have a tracking of their own app, but they also make money by selling the data they collect anonymously, of course, but to collect all the data, extrapolate it, and making it possible for people to know where they are in terms of management, in terms of performance, in terms of revenues compared to others. Is it something you are doing as well?
Um, yes, actually, you are talking about something that we plan to do in the future. Because our client base still are relatively small, and we have not achieved the critical mass for big data. I have several points to make on this topic. First is that we are not using our clients' data without their allowance permits, and this is very, very important. Because the data is the asset of our clients, not our asset. We just help them to reserve the data. Okay. Secondly, actually, there are a wide range of applications for utilizing the big data. One of the application is to actually to get loan, to get credit from your lenders. Okay, in China, small business, it's very difficult for small business to acquire loans from the lenders at a lower interest rate, because it's difficult to give them credit, to evaluate their credibility. Accounting software with maybe 2 or 3 years of accounting data enables the lenders like banks to better evaluate the credibility of the small businesses. Actually, if a particular small business are in a position to actually raise funding from the borrowing, and then their advisor, accounting service advisor, can advise them, okay, in order to acquire this business, after calculation, I suggest that you can acquire maybe some loan from the banks. And then the advisor can go to the bank and permit the bank to actually evaluate their data, the accounting data, and eventually the bank can offer the credit to the small business. So this is one of the applications. The other applications, of course, as what you said, we can provide numbers in terms of how particular business is performing in different aspects in comparison with the industrial average. That is certainly another application area, but we have not grown our numbers sufficiently big in order for us to provide such kind of services. But that will take place certainly in the future. Yes, and in terms you talk about blockchain and API. Yes, blockchain and API are of different technology. Actually, I think blockchain is quite amazing technology. However, its application in different sectors are still in a premature stage. I think increasingly there will be very strong applications occurring in the future. API is relatively easy. It just helps to connect different software together to make the information and data flow across different softwares that has a readily available application in the industry. So that's why API is much more prevailing than the application of blockchain. But I can also give you another application example of blockchain in our platform potentially. For example, we have on our platform, those businesses who has a lot of short-term cash piled on their books. They do not know how to make use of their cash. There are also businesses who are seeking cash to finance their businesses in the short term. And then if our, the accounting numbers, the data in our system enables the credit rating for the businesses requiring cash, and actually eventually we can get around the banks just to enable the businesses with cash to lend the cash to the businesses who are requiring cash, who are demanding cash. And these, by fulfilling this, we really need blockchain technology. But that is something maybe will take place after many years. Okay.
I'd like to go back on this topic to continue a little bit on loan credit. Two things. First one, is it compliant and legal, and in which context it is legal for a company which business is not to lend money to actually give a credit to another company? How legal and compliant is it, and what are the limits, and what are which context you can do that? As you mentioned, it's happening, so I'm pretty sure it's something we can do, but in which context? And second thing, we all know, people who have been in business in China for some time, that banks don't give any loan to small and medium companies, even if your accounting is very clear and so on, or at least it's very difficult, especially for WOFE, so foreign companies. So do you see a change over the last few months or years in this matter? So two questions. First, giving a loan from company to company which are not in the financial sector, how easy it is to do, and in which context we can do it. And secondly, what about banks? What kind of loan they can offer now to small and medium businesses?
Yes, the first question, actually, it is not legal, certainly not legal, that a business can give lending to another business in China. I think there's a long way to go for us to achieve that, aspiration. But actually, what I was trying to talk about is that the backend business is really about, information processing. It's really about information processing. Actually giving credit to a small business is about information processing, and the lending money is information processing. Actually, all these kind of functions can be better performed by cloud accounting, blockchain technology, and artificial intelligence in the future, which save a lot of resources of doing this. One of the reasons why China banks is very reluctant to offer credit to small businesses is that it takes a lot of energy and time for them to really evaluate the credit for the small businesses. And the lending numbers is relatively small, sometimes 2 or 3 million RMB, and it's not profitable for them to do it. And the blockchain, artificial intelligence, and cloud technology enable much less costly way of performing the credit for small businesses in a much more accurate degree. So I think this is a kind of a disruptive technology that will save a lot of resources for the banking sector, and that will definitely take place in the future, but not now, because now it's not legal. Okay. And in terms of the lending to the small businesses, it is, as you said, it is still very difficult for small businesses to get the lending from the banks, because banks, they tend to be conservative, and the banks in China are state-owned, mostly state-owned. They do not want to make any mistakes. Okay, they do not want to make any mistakes. So they have a tendency in terms of aversion of the risks. So normally they offer lending to the businesses as long as you have something to, okay, like you have a real estate, you have something to ensure the bank that you have the capability to pay back your money.
what we call a collateral. So they
Collateral,
always
yes,
ask for collateral.
yes,
Okay,
collateral,
which is
yes.
which is not as would say mature as in Europe and in the US, where you can have working capital loan without collateral to make sure that it helps you to pay the payroll, to run the company, and also factoring. I'm not sure factoring is that developed neither in China, where the bank would give some money credit to the company before they get paid the invoice, and the company would show the invoice before. And that's where actually your software would be useful, is to see how many accounts receivable they have, and the bank could lend the equivalent of money. But my understanding is that it's not very developed in China yet.
Of course not yet. Of course not yet. I think there's still a long way to go. But I mean, increasingly we are seeing that in the Western countries, this kind of back-end business become increasingly efficient and more competitive, and inevitably that will affect the growth and development of the back-end sector in China. Under the globalization perspective. So actually we are pioneering this, but not what we are doing is that we are actually, as I said, we do not see our clients leaving us during the epidemic. Why? Because they are strong in terms of managing their organizations. And actually those companies that are using our software are intrinsically and naturally very well-managed businesses. And in the future, it will be the same. So just think about it. Maybe after 3 or 5 years, we have 5,000 and 10,000 well-managed businesses with their accounting numbers on our platform. And then it can be a good asset for the backing and for the investors to look at in terms of lending their money or invest their money into the companies that using our software. So, but it really takes some time.
How do you decide that you are going to develop a new feature? Developing a new feature for a medium-sized companies and tech company is hard, because it's a lot of investment, it's a lot of time. It cannot maybe not work well, and when you push the new feature to the client, they may find out some bugs depending on what browser they use, depending on which circumstances they use. So what's your process in terms of deciding a new feature and how to develop it?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, over the last 3 to 4 years, most of the ideas for developing our new feature comes from the feedback from our clients. So this is very important. We have actually iterated for more than 50 updates. We do updates normally 1 or 2 months per update. So most of the new features we just listen to the market, and our clients will tell us, okay, this feature we suggest some kind of a modification or revision, and we are looking forward to this feature, but your software is not supplying. And then we actually collect this feedback, and we make a analysis of which features are of the most pertinent to character to our clients, and we make a decision. So actually, I would say that when we first developed the software, we just learn about from the features from the foreign countries like QuickBooks Online and Xero, and then we combine that with the Chinese statutory accounting requirements, and we develop our first version. And later on, most of our product innovation ideas came from the collection from the feedback from our clients, actually.
I see. So more than the competition, you look at your clients and you ask your clients what are their pain points in order to develop new features. The danger of that is that clients very often want everything, even things which are actually they're going to use only 1 or 2 times. They may have a lot of things they want to develop. So you have to screen them, rank them, and then make a decision on which one is key and which one is secondary.
That is a very professional question, actually. Yeah, we of course, we are not blinding in accepting the feedback of the clients. One of the key, decision-making factor, whether or not we will just incorporate one of the feedback into our future feature. A future feature is that, does it affect the overall architecture, overall design and of our software? If it does impact on that, we will just go to the client and tell them that maybe you need that feature from another add-on software, which is not within the scope of our functionality. Yes.
It's very interesting. we interviewed before a software company, and they gave us a very good insight, which is additional. I don't know what's happening outside. There is a lot of ring from police, so I don't know. But they were providing an insight on the fact that if a salesperson in their team was going back to the office saying, my client wants this feature, they were saying, okay, if we don't have the features, the management was, if we don't have the feature, you have to find another company outside our firm to develop for us the feature, and will be an additional cost on your P&L, profit and loss, with this client. And then the salespeople will say, oh, maybe that's not necessary. Maybe we can do with what we have, and I'm going to sell what we have. So your way of doing is not to say, then we ask an outsourcing company to create the feature for this client, but you say this client, we may find for you some existing softwares, existing solutions which are solving your issue. And I strongly believe this topic of developing or non-developing a feature when you're in a tech company, by listening to your clients and to know how to manage that with your ecosystem environment, is a key skill to develop when you want to manage a tech company. Do you agree with me?
I fully agree. Because we have availability of third-party softwares in the market which can be connected with us. So we need to really carefully analyze, where does the requirement go in terms of the functionality of the software, and if it does not, reside in the scope of our own software, we'll try to help the client to find an add-on which contains this functionality, and eventually they can use, the integrated software, because we connect with each other through API. The purpose is that, we do not want to enlarge our software to become so sophisticated that make it no longer beautiful, no longer, we do not want to sacrifice our usability, because if we just adding one feature, maybe this feature is not used by most of our clients, but it becomes visible to most of our clients. That only serves to reduce our usability. So that's something we are very careful at. Okay, but our advantage is that we can always, get announced to resolve the problem for a particular client for a specific requirement.
Question about Axel Standard. I mentioned it at the beginning. What is Axel Standard? What do you do with them?
Actually, I want to say the reason why we are still, we are not so successful in terms of our subscription numbers is that we are dependent. Our business model is dependent upon qualified accountants. Because eventually, if our software is going to deliver value to the clients, the clients need to really get someone to supervise the recording of the transactions to make everything accurate. The clients need someone to really generate the pertinent management reporting for them and help them to make decisions. And this kind of value is not delivered by our software alone per se. Actually, we really need qualified professional accountants with Chinese business experiences to help our clients to make best use of our software. So this is very important. But the problem we came across is that, which we didn't expect, is that the supply, there is a great shortage in terms of the supply of professional qualified accountants in China, which is very backward in comparison with the Western countries. This is a big problem because I think one of the reasons is because of the education system in China. Accountants increasingly in the future, they need to build a business mindset. They are not only bookkeepers. They are not only crunching the numbers. They really need to step forward to understand the business model of their client company or their employer. They really need to make sense of the businesses from the perspective of the business owners or the CEO. So that they know how to use the numbers to help the CEO or the business owners to make accurate decisions. So that poses a very high requirement in terms of the broad range of skills for the accountants. So that resulted in the short supply of the qualified accountants. So that's a big problem. But in terms of the foreign business sector, a large number of accounting firms, they still charge very high fees by delivering basic level compliance services. And so compliance services is required by the government, that's the minimum level of services. But actually, foreign companies in China, they really need, good internal control, good tax planning, good Chinese experiences to help them to mitigate a wide range of risks, which they are unfamiliar with, and also help them to maximize their take-home profits. And the supply of qualified accountants in this area is quite important. We've seen actually a lot of foreign business with decent service, with good technology, with high quality products. They have good sales, but they are not making money because of, they are not controlling their business quite well in China. Actually, we've produced a text called Business Management Playbook for China, which synthesizes.
When you say with Axel Standard, right?
With Axel Standard, because we synthesized from our case studies, because we have around 5 to 10 accounting firms who are providing these high-level services, working on top of our cloud accounting platform. So they actually helped, their business, their client business, foreign businesses to actually improve the management and actually better grow their business in China. And we synthesized these stories into a text called Business Management Playbook for China, in which we actually analyze the problems by categorizing the problems into 4 categories in terms of compliance, tax planning, financial planning and analysis, and internal control. So that this can be a reference to, I think, foreign business owners, because if they want to lower down their risk and costs and maximize their profits. Okay.
Yeah, I have we got your document. It's a very, very instructive document indeed from Axel Standard. My last question is about computer science. You studied computer science from 1994 to 1998 in Chengdu at Sichuan University. Back then, and when you look at what you did, how do you analyze the evolution of computer science since you studied it to now?
I think I started to first of all, I have to acknowledge that I am not at all an expert of computer science. I become as a resource integrator. I'm more of a businessman at this moment. But you're right. I started to use computer more than 30 years ago. My first computer was something like Apple II. Apple II. I don't know if you know this kind of computer.
I see. I saw some documentaries, but I didn't use it. But in China, you learned coding on an Apple II?
Yes, I learned basic language, computer. Computer language of basic.
I see.
That is a very easy to learn language, but not so powerful. When I started to use Apple II, that was more than 30 years ago, and the memory was about 48 kilobytes. Think about it. At that moment, we can do a very, very, minimize the functionality with Apple II. But look at now, the computer is remarkably more powerful than it was 30 years ago. However, I see evolution of a computer science very rapidly. But personally, I'm not a programmer. I didn't write even one commercial programming line. Sorry, but I have no too much comments in this question. Okay.
But it was interesting to know that you learned coding on Apple back in the 1990s, and China in the 1990s in Sichuan University and Chengdu in Sichuan is very, very, very different from China in 2020. So to know that you learned to code on Apple, I think it gives a sense of how China has been open since what we call the 改革开放 and the opening of the economy, importing Apple computers, teaching on Apple, computer science in 1994, for instance.
I want to say that, very important. This is from my personal perspective in doing business with foreign companies. I think China benefited over the last 30 years a lot from opening up to the world, and actually we imported and we absorbed a lot of technology in terms of computer, information technology, and also internet. And that enabled us to, develop and to develop a wide variety of industries in China, eventually drive up our GDP sustainable growth for more than 30 years. So it is very important that we actually imported this technology. And also, I see foreign businesses in China also making great contributions to the China's economy. And relatively, they offer good technology, they bring in good management, and they offer good product to the Chinese consumers. And they are relatively willing to pay honest taxes. So these are all the contribution to the Chinese economy. And also, we see that when the Chinese government is reforming its tax system, it makes it more fair for the foreign business in China, because that drives the Chinese businesses for financial visibility, financial transparency, and that forces the Chinese businesses increasingly to also pay accurate and honest taxes. That puts the Chinese business and foreign business on the same equal foot. So make it more fair for the business, make it easier for the foreign businesses in the future. And I think I will be very happy if there are increasing number of foreign businesses becoming successful. They make money in China and they take the profit back into their home country, because they are really contributing to the Chinese economy.
It will be a positive and optimistic ending to this discussion. It's more than 1 hour now, so we have to end it now. Thank you very much for your time. And I'd like to thank two people who have made this podcast possible, our intern Etienne Dahl and Sophia Bakhtar, our marketing manager, who have been in touch with you before. Thanks, Michael, for this discussion. It was very instructive, very genuine, and a lot of expertise displayed in SaaS business and accounting, and very true discussion. So thanks for sharing, Michael.
Thank you, Matthew, and also for Sophie, right? And I hope the podcast will be more influential and successful in the future. And you are really doing a very good thing,
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for listening. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye, everyone.
And the last remark is that I hope everyone, the listeners of this podcast, stay safe and healthy in the face of the epidemic.
Yeah, hopefully we are reaching the end soon. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.